Hello, dear Judge Napolitano, and Judging Freedom YouTubers and YouTubers of the world. On, on and off a kindergarten I went to in Wethersfield, which was not the school I went to from first grade to sixth grade. There are people with houses next to it who have been involved with foreign and domestic medical families. I had no classes with them there. They were involved with a Harris family and ones with the name Leahy and former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and people from Washington, D.C., and people from the World Trade Center, and people on off the state corrections offices in spots next to it, on off the state judicial branch offices, who have roles of wire crime acts and methods that are simultaneously collusions with predicate acts with facts methods with children's campuses, and with identity, therefore with name /S, therefore with difference /S. These are people involved with a Joshua Julian. And then he recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. First, he tried to pretend other on Facebook. Joshua Schumack, too, is one of the ones on Facebook page of Wethersfield Police, involved with a guy who says he's Darth Vader, as one of the people on off Trinity College, intelligence community in foreign countries, through time, with people with the name Cololo and DeMoro, and people associated with him as former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and co-defendants of his, Thaddeus Grabowski, Johnny LeConte, or John LeConte, I don't know, and Dominic Labrada, neighbors of a Dominic Labrada. The difference between how they are conjunctions that way, adjacents and conjunctions too, has been used consciously. These are people, extended family members of different various natures of courts, as certain type of victim / hyper victim at the same time with overt criminal enterprises and with private ones, and with the differences between the three branches of government and the rest of the intelligence. So Sandy Hook has intelligence community involved with the FBI, also with narratives with the networks regarding Sandy Hook and other murders involved. Intercities, there were connections to them, and they're used in all sides of fields, and next to everyone, to keep out foreign names. It's a method. It makes people everyone hurt themselves and keep blamed on other things, others themselves. For example, why, how, really? There's a narrative about a window, and the narratives regarding the Constitutional Convention. They left and leave out. Value left out, leave out too, distinctly, because that's all the difference the United is used remotely too. How our founders, who are not the Native Americans, as the portion of our founders they are too. We're still founded a bridge. That's what the problem is. That's how to describe it too. But that abridgment is not. It is there too, and grouped. All groupings of humanity, then voices defended of this. The breaching method measures and maintains that self value. Certain type of victim / hyper victim who missed the short words you were capable of having as kids, black pupils / whites of eyes, and exception nature is the course, the way of things, boxings. These are our innumerable rights. That's what the Constitution is about. The Constitution is about innumerable rights and about the Constitution unabridged, and about its original abridgments. Not just because of our founders, but that too. Those the increasing value were increasingly. See, this thing discerned what they left us to decipher, which was didn't even have to decipher it. Rather than using it to measure and maintain, who's going to speak about the extortion of George Washington honestly, telling no lies? let alone of James Madison, let alone of all three of them. I mean, all them and the Native Americans, because that's first. If you don't understand the breaching method against humanity, how it was had first been sustained against Native Americans, and then our founders were born. The suburbs had already been designed where it had already been an effective breaching method already had been sustained. Not just Native Americans have been given and look at the systems. These aren't the education of the ancients before the sciences became criminally foreign influenced. There are proofs that they were, and/or it is more probable to theorize or convict, let alone to convict. The republic for which we stand, in the ancient form of itself, it valued the hyper-invisible distinctly from the invisible but still discernible, as the invisible but still discernible are all parts of speech, for example. And the hyper-invisible but still discernible is why there are 7 names for the verb, not just one. While it is invisible but still discernible, its greater identity is hyper-invisible but still discernible. That there is a distinct identity of simultaneous nature that revealed how and why humanity has the quality aspects of nature we do. And we know we didn't invent it because simultaneously it's showing us the other animals, the other insects, they have quality aspects of nature, consciousness, distinctly but non-distinctly, simultaneously, further hyper-simultaneously, per science. It is showing us this is the difference between, one of the differences that is a non-difference is being a sequence nature relative to being a species volume as a simultaneous nature. And this comes with grouped difference /S note. But now through systems tactical ulterior than its own from semi-ancient times. And that had been sustained, and it knew defenses of humanity, of humanity's selves, therefore names, A through Z. It would be in defenses of themselves syntactic because they didn't know how to counter what they had to counter, how to do it properly, and sustain that. So it made them use the names of the sciences and defend that, and use groupings of humanity to defend themselves wrongly, syntactically, therefore physically. All exceptions, exception nature, are in demonstration of the same thing /S. That singular thing is its identity of relationship to itself, and the value of that which is to it the value of our contemplation. More so. See, jobs and things, there's assist your job, where your boss will tell you other. Even the victims of the worst parts of how the suburbs were designed, tactically denatured to cause negative, but to be a landscape theater. While there was a new system causing criminal insidiousness natures of means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts natures, without anyone fathoming. Because everyone gave up the significance of how everyone was prevented and is prevented that quality of fact human nature that does not, for example, leave out the slightest finite detail, because that can be used to discern a system other than its own being used. That which is hyper-simultaneous, that which demonstrates the value of being of the species, a species body, is being a simultaneous nature, and how an individual being a sequence nature. A sequence nature is a distinct identity of simultaneous nature. Time is 5 distinct identities of sequence nature, of the same hyper-simultaneous nature, which is the only one. that is as a semi-nature is positive, also positive onto itself as its system, even though we only have an extent of all that there is to be conscious of. Anywhere we have a piece of it, anywhere there's the smallest minute part of existence, even if something is made up, inseparable from all parts of it, finite grouped in together is this system that works that way because that's what it's showing us. With the value only increasing as what was really before, but not with questions through systems other too. So a whole bunch of countries share roles with phrases like criminal justice. For example, at Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, they have roles with names associated with one named tomorrow, and one that live near them. Named, some of them are named Schedule, and they were in relationships, intimate relationships at the same time with their partner. Were involved with intimate relationships, and they were involved with per others, and also per how they stepped in. They're involved with identity theft, fraud, slavery. I never saw them at a school that it's no longer a school next to them. But on all sides of it, those are people involved at campuses with identity theft, fraud, slanders, and predicate acts against me, as ones who are also timed on and off the World Trade Center location, leading up to it, long-term, short-term, in it, and since, as ones who also had roles with home break-ins in the area, and into the area through time, and use of that /S. And not just, and because there's a hyper-formed body. It's not just making neighbors fight with neighbors or the mixture of how they have the extended family members of foreign and domestic medical families involved with corners of streets. As in Wethersfield, Rocky Hill, Hartford, New Britain, for a long time, the difference, see, we have the same color eyes, different color eyes. People speaking for the law have been speaking as systems tactical ulterior. And the difference between that and overt criminal enterprises and private ones, and the insidiousness of people A through Z, it is relative because it is recorded how also gotten away with. Others communicated and was communicated for our founders in their place, in place of what they communicated. Already there was a complete possession over the extent of the quality, aspects, and nature of the people associated with the Constitution Convention. We know that slavery was entrenched sickly distinctly north and south, but also sickly non-distinctly. If you examine the nature of debate and differences, there is a shell game collusion used remotely. They don't understand. Everyone's speaking for value, leaving out this. Then they can't go back. You guys are preventing the short words of people using truths properly. For example, we have the same color eyes. We have different color eyes at the same time. Except for somehow some people have the same color eyes, with the exceptions part too. Fox News has a sea of blue eyes, and beautiful. See, and distinctly from CNN, they have the same sources, sickly non-distinctly, that are hiding behind that. And they're getting, part of the way they're getting away with it is because other countries are needing them too, because they have roles with the people that were with the medical corruption. They have a Mr. Abruzzi, and they have people with the name Abruzzi. I never had a personal conversation with him. tried to make a fake exception with a maze and a person named Joe DeMauro, one of the people named Joe DeMauro, who lives on this Valley Crest. There's no other people on Valley Crest associated with Joe DeMauro and a John DeMauro. I only had one conversation with Paul DeMauro in my life. I never saw him around in real life or the phone. He said that Joe's involved. He confirmed Joe's involved with police. But I didn't tell him the rest. He's involved with planting evidences and then trying to make fake exceptions, wire crimes, methods that has foreign and domestic intelligence families, overt criminal enterprises, and private ones involved with children's campuses and adult campuses and fire campuses. They have roles with Russians and with a girl and with WT and a whole bunch of families and their kids with WTNH who fabricated emails with the FBI, further involved with upskirt pictures with a proven principal child abuser, involved with the upskirt natures with them after it too. So since because we're more involved then too. A whole bunch of people with the name Dylan, Kevin Dillon, and Anna/Annie Dillon, and the difference between that name. And people on and off Hangdog Lane. And its conjunctions like their conjunctions. Like Route 3, which is that's also the conjunctive to the state judicial branch offices. And conjunctions and adjacents to it, as Wethersfield Pizza has roles with people of various natures of child abuse and foreign and domestic collusions with difference. You have sick people, a whole bunch of people that work for the mental health, mental evaluations. They make people yell, and they all work there. And they run in with the difference of their patients. And they're criminals. Forced they're using them, they're putting fake things in databases. They're using crime methods like where people can't, if someone says something that they wouldn't know unless someone told them, that only that you know, and it's about you. In other words, Sandy Hook had people pretend they have their patients and criminals. When I caught them before I caught them with the principal, before I caught them after I caught them with the principal child abuser, and while they were forcing it, they arrested me by fabricating information and by making the principal leave a whole bunch of different messages and confessions over the phone. And then to others too, but a whole bunch of them to me and to other people on the same answering machine. And all different things he kept bringing up. Then they pretend the person doesn't speak clear. And these are people that before the World Trade Center attack were involved. I didn't know it because they brought it up. They were involved with shootings at the time, murders, and with people involved with body dumping spots through time. And I got confessions confirmed on Facebook. These are people tied to the Facebook page of the Wethersfield Police and a Schumack family, and people with the name Mike Pandolf, and Pandolf, people with the name Pandolf. Know my name, I don't even know their name. At Central Connecticut State University, and with intelligence next to on all sides of it, and even with people from other areas, and people next to Trinity College. People from Hartford and Connecticut have roles with identity theft, frauds, planting evidences, also with judges, prosecutors, and their family members, and the family members of the leaders of the kids, abused to keep their parents abusing others. I never met Dr. Judd. A whole bunch of people associated with Dr. Judd and his kid. And now on all sides of Central Connecticut State University and the departments even consciously individually grouped and together. So I don't even know a whole bunch of there's male and females with the intelligence community associated with DeMauro families that are also involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. Even if they are legitimate or what they call legitimate, they had roles with all sides in criminal and civil cases. And with the Saudis, they forced the collusions with them with this. The same names. There's a Ray Reynolds that was in that camp when in that class I was in when I was in kindergarten for 1 year. And other was than what is pretended. And so something with a whole bunch of people tied to Ray Reynolds involved with child defenders that are also medical, tied to prisons and to courts and to medical locations like Hartford Hospital and to military. The difference, Sandy Hook has a prison campus there. They have fire campuses. I don't even know people. Anyone associated with this name O'Brien. There's a Ray O'Brien. That's someone that I never met a Ray O'Brien, but there's a Tim O'Brien, a Dennis O'Brien, Andrew O'Brien. People involved with Rocky Hill Police Department, Wethersfield Police Department, Newington Police Department, involved with the name Cololo, and people who say they're people associated with someone who's reportedly was his roommate. I don't know, involved with identity theft, fraud, slander, also with people with a name Oliveri. On off the state judicial branch offices, people with the name Fienza confirmed roles on off the state judicial branch and not spots next to it. Involved also with body number spot of Billy Grasso with their family, and roles with identity theft, fraud, falsified, federal evidence is crimes, federal rules of evidence is crimes, roles with child abuses, nature of identity theft, fraud, slander, and roles with Facebook and Twitter, further with the upskirt pictures, leaders of the kids. There's a mayor from Cromwell who has syntax with the federal agencies and foreign and domestic militaries involved. Now these are people involved with Kuwaiti military who had reportedly in the New York Times. They've been drilled laterally into or Saddam Hussein had claimed that Kuwait had drilled laterally, and whatever, all that, everyone left out the breaching method that makes fights. A Tim O'Brien and a Ray Cololo made some kind of narratives with their back. They put the Cololo family have roles with the intelligence community in foreign countries at the same time, and they're playing wire games and pretending people know each other and don't. They're hiding how they know each other. They're making fake exceptions. Now they have some KKK Confederate flag scenes with a Joshua Julian, that a Ray Cololo, and that a Mark Violet confirmed involved with them with medical, with the people involved. Hartford Hospitals involved with medical offenders, and further with the upskirt pictures, leaders of the kids, and other natures of child abuse and organized crime they've been involved with, also with the names next to them. These are intelligence families that have been using the news remotely to plant evidences while being and haven't been used remotely, and to pretend it's personal. They have the difference between, so this is this breaching method that Captain keeps other things others ourselves blamed for, what assigned black and white to mean and other than it does, and to assigned nature's demonstration of that to functions, and to not just make everyone blame other things others themselves, in a way /s to make everyone invested, sensing for the breaching method if anyone's not using truth right. We have the same color eyes, black pupils, except for where there are exceptions and where there is nature there. Nature shows us to interpret definitions, to interpret reality / hyper-reality. Tactical terror from how we are forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded to. So intercities, a whole bunch of names were involved with the Robert Rodriguez around with the names on off the state judicial branch officers, Wethersfield Pizza has rules with wire crime acts and methods of Wethersfield police switching and forging names with people involved with identity theft, fraud, slander, sequence shifts, and inter-campuses through time. I never saw Marie Vizino on a Wethersfield campus in my life. And she's associated with a John Mayano involved with sequence shifts. And in the form of federal evidences crimes, federal rules of evidences crimes, in the form of child abuses. He has rules with that. With a whole bunch of people that have rules of wire crimes with this Cololo. I've never seen him in the presence of O'Brien, but there are people with the name O'Brien involved with confessions of a John Mayano, involved with their families, and a whole bunch of other families that demonstrated non-verbally too, that their rules with the spots next to the state capitol, involved with predicate acts with facts on and off the campuses, identity theft, fraud, slanders, and rules of wire crime acts and methods, putting kids in places where they're self-value roles with that, or it makes it look like they had normal interactions with people. They were really placed for the reason why. All along Route 175, people who would tell you because they got invested, locked into fake things with other people. You know, they saw illusion. I walked by. I don't know John. There's a Kevin Carone, a Mark Carone, and a Jamie Carone. I don't know them, and they try to make exceptions with people with the name Perone and Kerr involved with child offenders at Central Connecticut State University, and as people involved with the spots next to Fox Connecticut News and next to WTNH. I'm not sure if there's a Spada family / IES. And it's nothing personal against them, and they have rules with the DeMoro family. And they have to pretend other with the people involved with that planting evidence, identity theft, fraud, slander, and with the people next to that school I went for 1 year. Has something to do with their roles with the shopping centers, like on off Town Line Drive, and their roles with judges and prosecutors and their kids, planting evidence, identity theft, making fake exceptions mixed with real. You know, you were in the location, but I was never anywhere with this Joshua Julian. And they tried to put a cup in my hand with has something to do with their roles with Koreans, with people from all these different countries, including Saudi Arabia, Korea. Their roles with the religious spots, further involved with child offenders of mixed natures of organized crime. They're using their roles bringing up and sustaining sexual and other natures of medical sickness. They can't speak for a reason. Hartford Hospital has people fabricating conversations with kids and their family members. In other words, with kids and adults and their neighbors. They've been attaching kids to fake ties to doctors and databases. No one's looking. Then their parents are gone. They're pretending all fake things. Vaccines. So further, the Connecticut News has on-off the campuses rules. Recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they're being forced, tricked, hurt, and persuaded by the people who employ them to plant evidences also with some of the differences between the teachers as the ones involved with the names with the overt criminal enterprises and private ones involved, and medical offenders that are personally and professionally involved with the courts, prosecutors, and judges, personally and professionally timed roles with a whole bunch of different countries involved with the campuses. How this has been gotten away with is how it's relative to all these different natures of organized crime associated with the names that were involved with how I went to that campus 1 year. And they're increasingly planting things together. And fake sense and sensibilities, times, collusion. There are people with the name Joey Quest involved with my former neighbors. People with the name Lewis, and then they switched Cleveland, and then they switched over to Lewis. And a whole bunch of people at Trinity College know my name. I don't know their name. And they said Calola was involved too. Wethersfield police have people with the name Sullivan. There's a Daryl Sullivan on Park Street in Hartford who was recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, one of the ones involved with WTNH and with other news on the principal child abuser's campus. Further, with the teachers involved with it, who had roles with organized crime figures that were including mayors that were involved with medical racketeering and delusions, criminally foreign influence uses of people's time and names, and of exceptions, no. So we have predicate acts with facts rules. And if I was trying to hurt people, I'd put, I'm trying to get you on paper. They put me in fake writing. They have mail crime acts and methods where they put fake transcripts. Even on places, campuses film 24/7. They influence they influence the leaders of the kids, like a Dean Judd and his kid has a whole bunch of roles. There's people with the name Wayne try to make fake exceptions of knowing me as one of the people involved with the foreign and domestic military and intelligence communities, people involved with the guns and things all along Route 175. Has something to do with the FBI and the other agencies at Central Connecticut State University. Also with roles with the readings of statutes that we could use as the hyper-evidential. So what they did is make people not allowed to use short words. And how they got away with it is how they use names on all sides of criminal and civil cases. The victims advocates of their sources, and the interbranch at the same time. The exceptions to that, like anyone's family member. Increasingly, where everyone doesn't want to be, but differentially, so they blame all the things on, but increasingly, at the same time, you're staying locked into that logic. Descriptions of reason, of instances. That even when you're correct, you are incapable of discerning, of allowing the quality of fact checking that should be discerned, what came first. There are predicate acts with facts methods that are singularly, consciously maintained upon the people of New York City, sickly distinctly from the people of the rest of the suburbs and cities from around the country. And Hartford is a suburban/urban city. No. Where and how the suburbs were conceived for that syntactical slavery. Method/S. Associated with proper treatments of the torture, not to be left out too, with proper treatments of the extortion of George Washington, of James Madison. And again, we cannot appreciate this until we appreciate how the Native Americans, as the last ones to be forced away from education that was not criminally foreign influenced, and to entertain that. And then additionally as ground. Nature shows us we are additionally as ground because how we are additionally it. It's showing us how about hyper-additional nature. All the subjects any subject we can make, individually grouped or all together simultaneously. There is /more coming in to space /existence. In Earth's a special difference. We have self-valued it, ignored by everyone else too all along. And it was measuring and maintaining, using what has nothing to do with these systems. All exception nature too. That's part of what it hides behind. Because you guys all think that, or your sense. That's why and how the hyper-evidential fact, there are, in other words, not the revelations come from the fact that where and how we have black people's rights as exceptions. This has been left out with such a serious part of proper reception of American history. Anyone who would deny that would have inherent, active, and progressive to their logic demonstration of the same thing slash S. Forgiveness is because what that thing slash S is a human fact should be nature breaching method. And the slash S is the roles with it, but it is also the nature. And the method of keeping that self-valued and or blamed on other things. Others are blamed on selves. Per its programming logic for you all. From some ancient times. Before modern religion's messengers. Because the sciences have become self-valued and bridged. Regardless if that was defenses of everyone had to defend themselves. Syntactically, now you start changing the why and how humanity values groupings. How speaks about group difference. We have the same color eyes, different color eyes. Okay, nature's speaking about difference. The species volume is a difference from the other species bodies. It is a species body of individual bodies. There are group difference slash S. Apart with this, there is a natural identity, its identity of relationship to itself, and the only increasing value of that. For example, by your employer, valued with you contemplating other, and or as exceptions as collusion slash S, and with difference. Also, hyper-evidential is how we know that not just semi-ancient, colonial, black, white, legal voices, identities, names A through Z, they were collusion, keeping blaming other things, others ourselves. We had been entrenched here before our founders were born. They told us to blame on the breaching method, which is the abridgments referred to for relative to the word unabridged. The Constitution is about hyper-additional nature. There is a difference between the Constitution and the Constitution unabridged. So great people stayed and stay evil. I'm saying, in other words, criminally foreign influence readings of the statutes are involved. There's a Christina Sioka who's involved with, I never saw him in my life try to pretend, he's another one that pretended other. A Gilmore, a Dr. Gilmore, a male, I never saw what we look like, at Hartford Hospital, his campus, and further involved with where I went to preschool before I went to that campus in Wethersfield, with names next to it, with the name Mendez and Sioka, involved interstate foreign, with medical corruption, all kinds of pilfering of monies from healthcare with the directors of the agencies, the lawyer of Robert Cheverry. I mean, his name, Robert Cheverry, the lawyer of former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, who had been warned. Robert Luskin had been warned by a federal judge, Nations or Judge Winters, not to go without a lawyer. So Robert Cheverry acted as his lawyer in a 2006 Connecticut District Court case. Before that case, in and since, people have been obstruction of the justice, extortion of me, identity theft, fraud, slanders, acts against me, federal evidences crimes, attaching me to fake conversations. Because that's one of the ways that the FBI director with other agencies got away with this. Also, as the people, I was in the Ninth Circuit Court with a case tied to that one, observing, and people on both sides of that were also used by people from West Hartford Intelligence and Central Connecticut State University Intelligence in New Britain, Connecticut, is involved with East Hartford families and intelligence through time with Officer Magnanos. And he brought up the name Stephen Manos, who's one of the names involved with people in the World Trade Center attack next to it in the Ninth Circuit Court on both sides of that case. Our people are also involved with judges. In other words, it was proven after that, right before they had post-dated from inside the court the legal papers to make them look as if they've been handed in late to the panel of judges. And there were a whole bunch of people tied, to the family members of both sides of the cases and other observers. And there were timed influence uses of that. Their sense and sensibilities as timed collusions with overt criminal enterprises and private ones. And child offenders who had conversations with their own teachers growing up and with mine that were influenced to make it look like was real things relative to their roles with predicate acts with facts recorded being put in the campus's databases, fake things. They're doing things with their kids involved, timed collusions. There's a Kevin Harris who was involved further with child abusers of kids, of leaders of the kids, and of the kids are not, that don't even know them. And the difference between that, they're trying to make it look different. This is how they're using sense and sensibilities to use Jane Austen phrase in ways that either the difference between formal voicings for the law, overt criminal enterprises, private ones, roles, needs, and natures with that. What are we speaking about, Black people? We're speaking about predicate acts with facts, not science spoke. Awake, awoke. Some look past into smoke and call that clear. Vaccines. We fight, but by the rules. I teach us things. So forgive me, Judge Napolitano, I had to use explanation marks with the word /value fear. Because you guys have been roles preventing me short words. Then I'm trying to say, if I didn't care about you guys, I would try to trick you. It's not even a trick. In other words, you guys prevent short words, then I try to look for evidences to pretend other. You guys are getting over on accepting, the quality of fact, cheap nature, A through Z. Otherwise, that body is sensed, even if that body is a majority. And how, when we get to we left out the black-white roles with law, speaking for the law, when the law, nature shows us the law is spoken to be spoken of. Is how it's valuable. Not for they're making like everything about, in other words, nature. There are things that are, nature shows us everything. There are something, it will only stay positive unto itself. All exception, nature comes simultaneously as for demonstration of what a special difference is about. You have a special difference that is hyper-additionally from Earth's, that is hyper-additionally your own. That can't be, but it is anyway. Where and how that begins and stays our subject. The identity of value progression that is hyper-native pure. It is not, again, too, then further, it is as the ground's identity too. The ground is tactically distinctly, but sickly non-distinctly, against Native Americans and against Americans, to measure and maintain how sickly non-distinctly is left out. It's increasingly valuable, positive to everyone at once. Boxings to campus dance with stolen name. The campus martias of the republic for which we stand. It came from before criminal foreign influences. And it is appreciated how, for example, each note of the notes of music has a little piece of their sound. The other notes sound more like it. And or look at it like it. Where we could draw their distinct identities, we could draw their distinct identities of relationship to themselves. And when we observe that, they have individually grouped in together. Relativity to its hypervolume science, volume singular, is the only thing that is a semi-nature, that is hyper-positive, also positive unto itself. And as this identity is about relativity to positive and negative simultaneously, the same way, and distinctly, non-distinctly, simultaneously / hyper simultaneously, the values are. Like the value of why we have food. See, now it has been through systems other exceptions and exception nature trying to account for that have stayed collusions, keeping why and how blamed on other things, others, ourselves. Fake sides. So we have atheists and we have people passionately charged as the stewards of different distinct religions who have collusions with themselves on and off campuses, identity theft, fraud, slanders, federal evidences, crimes, rules, certain type of victim / hyper victim, where and how all investigations, investigators, and perception wasn't as used remotely, pretending other too. That's one of the things that it's about, why and how we have black people's rights of eyes, and this was left out with the question of what caused slavery. Our founders demonstrated to us they had to hide their actual identities. They had to put, they had to hide their roles with the plan that unfolded and blamed on other causes and motivations, telling us to get the Constitution unabridged and communicating to us, even if they didn't say it directly, they communicated to us Constitution unabridged, supposed to speak about the extortion, how they were tortured, extorted, in fact, human nature enslaved, signally distinctly from everyone else and from themselves. The 3 volumes of our founders, Americans. Here, it is Native Americans. It is the founders that had to counter-extort the other founders, as James Madison, as George Washington, black peoples. And with black peoples each. So, 2, if you guys follow mandated law for your branch of government, we could put in place, a system to fix everything the way we want to do it, not through sick filters. And we'll fund it by this method. We'll use the hyper-evidential, and we'll let nature answer our questions. This is hyper-intelligence. Hyper-intelligence appreciates lists, appreciates the finite, the difference between the difference / non-difference between the finite and the order of the finite. For example, there are 5 identities of order and or of power and or of time. Prepare your mind, because they are bound by the hyper-simultaneous that shows us how to describe this nature. And why with that word? See, nature is an identity. And every identity is an identity of everything, even the rock. Rock is an identity of relationship to itself, and only increasing value of that as a value/value progression. Where nature equals, where value equals, nature is value/value as nature. And the converse being true, and that is true conversely, /hyper conversely. And this is Trinity nature, inseparable from itself. And so manifest is cell body, cell nucleus, cell wall/S as three distinct identities of relationship to itself. We have the 5 identities of time. Now, what came before that we know was true. And there's an extent of the future that we know is true, or we know what it is about. For example, the seasons are a course, individually grouped and together, that like vaccines is now the herd. Anyone tries hard at boxing will make the shush sound. Again, remember here, this once was taught, more probable, more practical. When we examine the convictions made by and around history, here it is manifest. We're replaced. Those words, those means by correlation we had from the youngest ages that were replaced in how and what motivations really there were there. Many pray, boxings. I teach us things, but long. Come on. The campus of the ancients call us back, be known. So, for example, one of the ways they get away with this is by having the people that had been involved with predicate acts with facts, putting fake things in databases at campuses, and with the exceptions of it, on and off campuses too, because they accept the differences, all nations of difference are being and having been employed by this preaching method, which employs self-value roles with that, or with tricks that the breaching method showed them, where it measures and maintains at countries A through Z. Suits and ties, no. Counters to them and exceptions as collusions, and with their difference. Not just with the shell game and all the array. So these all value difference, value lists, and defenses of that, syntactically, that cannot afford to protract how the mind, how nature, reason was meant to, and can value lists in the order of the finite, and descriptions of all natures of descriptions of emotions, or of what is described as non-emotional. You guys are psychopaths. You guys rely upon nature's descriptions of what is sound logic and uses of evidences as collusions relative to how this has been gotten away with. Also as the hyper-evidential coming into clean. So Wethersfield police have been switching names, forging names, with ones involved with other police departments through time, and as the ones that enter campuses at CCSU, Central Connecticut State University in New Britain, Connecticut, and Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. They are rolled with some recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. They have been influenced from off campuses, some ways by foreign bodies, and interstates ones and the difference of that used too. People associated with the border too. People also associated with the spots next to the campuses, intercities through time. Prepare your mind. So, in other words, they have these buildings as manifest Veterans Affairs buildings, veterans, elderly's homes. See the nature of those rooms. Oh, but that's the rooms, that's how much it costs. See, these have not been tapped into our means. And we cannot forget the suburbs were the tactical nature for the torture, extortion of our founders, let alone of everyone else. As a theater where everyone was blaming other things other than themselves, where the reliefs came through and as collusions with the worst negatives and the most criminal insidiousness negatives because it needs to keep its identity of relationship and method from being discerned. It means it has to keep every identity, even an identity of a breaching method, a hyper-archetypal criminal enterprise, if you will. I'm not a lawyer, not a police force, not a criminal, not a judge. We have the hyper-evidential shows. They also have collusions, all kinds of nature of organized crime with their descriptions of reason, with their descriptions of of motivations. For example, regarding serious things like the capital problems. See, generations of a Mayano family have roles with people in medical corruption tied to courts and prisons, foreign and domestic, and Mayor Gold, other mayors from before him and since that are involved with, all kinds of nature of organized crime and uses hyper-additional from the singular use of people that are just force equality of fact human nature. By saying, I speak the truth. Some of them say, the difference between that. How many people they made a whole bunch of natures of intelligence bodies that are criminally foreign influenced identities of logic and natures of it. And where and how that's not true, they also tactically delusions raw. Where and how, again, you guys have had to replace the short words our founders wanted, needed, and communicated to you, for you. The Constitution was abridged. They told us to get it unabridged. They told us to observe how a breaching method had assigned roles with a whole bunch of laws and with uses of the phenomena, how we are hyper-additionally identities of ground as ground's voicings, as ourselves, but not. Some ways, the rest of the animals are more humanity than humanity is now. They look more like humanity than ourselves. We are systems tactical or other. We are a negative identity of relationship to itself that will only stay positive unto itself relative to the Earth's special difference. We could be systems other. It will force that from here, these of IDs. Earth's a special difference, your own, as Earth's. See, the rest of Earth not being criminally foreign influenced has held us here so long. Boxing is strong, but give it rest. I tell it best. Boxing. I teach us things belong. For campus name, so long ago was stole. Read native dreams. I believe it's the Navajo who say we must read each other's dreams. And there are Native Americans individually grouped and together, had sustained against them that breaching method that we know to an extent of, because by observing the natures of the laws, the natures of the descriptions of them too, though, when we use the hyper-evidential. What really caused witch trials? What really responded and or responds with such things and or stay silent? This is all about the hyper-additional nature. The English was is about. It is about the 1/3/5 identities of relationship to itself, except how the 3 ways grouped and the 5 ways grouped, it is itself are in demonstration of the same thing, and how it is making more of itself. That identity of value/value progression that generated all things, which assigned the other species bodies and humanity species bodies distinctly, but also non-distinctly, and and not just simultaneously, but further hyper simultaneously. They have the same quality aspects, nature, details, finite, grouped and together. They have the same leading program/programming / appreciation of that. There. This word was criminally re-engineered. English. This word was criminally re-engineered before England was a name. Humanity first appreciated why and how, understood more and more why and how we are individual grouped and species volume/S. There are proofs it is more probable and practical that the ancients had microscopes. The nature of debate on that is also inherent, active, and progressive, with demonstrations of the same thing also, but also you have to be appreciating the difference between the formal voicings and defenses of that fact, nature, quality aspects of natures, and people A through Z with the insidiousness and the overt criminal enterprises and private ones involved. So I don't know if that's with the military, whatever. The military has roles with you know, putting fake things in databases. The same people involved with Officer Jerry Miller on Facebook with New Britain Superior Court and Hartford courts have family members involved with West Hartford locations with passion crimes and rape threats. Then on Facebook, that was before the World Trade Center attack, because they affected confessions to me from people with the military, foreign and domestic, from other cities, like Eric Burgess from West Hartford. Also told me, he explained how he makes things up to the girls about themselves and about others, planting evidences with a dean, judge, kid, and people associated with the intelligence community, interstates, foreign, people with the name Scalora, involved with child offenders and home break-ins with police forms. They're also forging and switching names with ones with the name McGee on different police reports too. These are also people involved with the policing and running of Rocky Hill High School and schools through time. Involved with all kinds of medical corruption and involved with politicians, their family members, their roles with foreign ones. It's nothing personal, too. They do that. That's one of the things they have. They make also when everyone's speaking through others. Groupthink is involved because this is something that Fox News, CNN, and MSNBC reported together. So they have their difference recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. Assigned by their sources of the intelligence that are criminally foreign influence, fact, human nature, quality aspects, nature, and uses of that remotely, relative also to where and to how other has been blamed on what our founders communicated for us to blame on the breaching method. Honesty shows we told no truth, no lies about the torture and extortion of our founders. Let alone, we don't leave out the people hurt worse by that. Oh, well, that was a tragedy. It's not because of that. It's not because of feelings, no, or not. It's because It shows that the Constitution's abridged. So it's positive. We look for where we, in other words, now we know the Constitution's abridged. We know we have means that we agree. We're going to do whatever we have for better than free to liberate the people of New York City, etc., across the globe. They can't afford that through companies and identities that are pretending to be subsidized integrity. They're not integrity. I cannot speak for modern leaders' names. They speak anyway. Shows them how the breaching method showed them how to use the most knowledge of good and evil, to use a phrase from the Old Testament. But not wanting to, being forced to, for example, you guys, the Old Testament and the Quran have a part that says all one has to understand is right to hear. You won't defend it. And you have the difference between who knows the most about that and is the stewards of it, and the people that attack them there as collusions while being haven't been used remotely. You guys never saw it coming because it never left. From some ancient times, it came before modern religions were messengers were even born. The names of the sciences, therefore the names of the people, the sciences, they're already using criminally foreign influence, natures of difference, of reason descriptions as collusions against that which. See, nature communicates with positive or negative value nature progressions, individually grouped and together, also connected. Also with the value as the value of prayer, but not through as a science, as the science of pantheism / hyper-pantheism. I'll donate this, and we'll use this to fix New York City simultaneously. That's part of the problem. You guys are pretending things are debatable that aren't. And how you get away with it simultaneously, the breaching method showed you how to. And then it showed you how that could be discerned. Show you how you need to hide that and keep it going. And the difference between how the branches of government are criminally foreign influence, the overt criminally private ones, that difference is used more so to keep it. Names A through Z. There's a judge, Napolitano, with Judging Freedom. He reported in one of his videos on YouTube. He has great videos. You're lucky you have an honest judge trying to care with the whole world about to blow up. But he is now the more everyone's missing, we don't have to miss. All these countries involved have collusions, and that can be positive. You use it as a hyper positive. But when you're doing that simultaneously, it shows a whole bunch of criminal and serious natures of positives applications. That's why we have to appreciate how everyone was victim / hyper victim. We have to appreciate where and how we're forced to entertain groupthink and group speak, and how they get away with that. A whole bunch of people with a Leahy fit with the name Leahy, Lombardo, Dylan, people tied to them. People involved with Judge Killian. People with foreign and domestic medical families involved with child defenders, leaders of the kids, sexual, medical, as one's personally and professionally involved with other judges of other courts and other prosecutors of other courts and other cliques with those courts through time since they were kids, all along roads and routes, their conjunctions and their adjacents to them. One of the things is increasingly their roles with spots next to the state capitol of Connecticut, as one's involved on off the World Trade Center, on off the court next to it, and other spots next to it, with the ones with the name Demoro and Cololo said that Scalora is their cousin. Now, this is also one of the ones involved with people, identity thefts and frauds, planting evidence on my street, making it look like they know me so others can take a picture too. With the field across the with Rob Rodriguez, also made confessions and brought up the principal child defenders campus and locations all along Route 3 and names associated with him involved with child defenders, foreign, all kinds of medical corruption. They're not legitimate intelligence community, and what they're doing on and off the parks with mayors involved. So all sides in criminal and civil cases, victims advocates, the courts have appointed, they appoint victims advocates. And they have collusions also with the people at the branch, switching names and sequence while stacking fake transcripts and evidences and natures of ties to people into databases. So when they have the commercials about identity thefts and frauds, they had collusions where they assigned jobs with data. So this is my caseload. This is what our job does. This is the identity of this. All those blame it on that agency or that. They're all recorded. You guys can't speak for black pupils. Nature shows us how to speak for law. Black pupils, yeah. We will bring reliefs at once and all right here. So I'll donate the whole campus / production company where we reverse the colors. Someone has to step up and put the. I wish it would be the president, because then we and the other branches of government, guys. Just keep that. Then we'll make something hyper transparent. And this is coming. We're going to be donating for the whole world. This is for them, no matter what they want to be part of it or not. It's for them. We set up. All we have to do is admit too. This breaching method made the suburbs you can't feed yourselves. The soil is tactically denatured. Each year it's worse. The worms used to walk in the puddles all the time, no more. The whole nature of the soil is dead. Oh, but I want an expert, had this video, and you put this bag from this thing. There's no worms in those bags at Home Depot, Lowe's, True Value, your local hardware store. Shout out to your local hardware stores. See how the nature of business left out. The difference between a certain type of victim / hyper victim that businesses are too. But before you deal with that, and while dealing with it or being it, you don't stay a role, leaving out how and why. That was a part with the torture, extortion, slavery, factory nature slavery method against our founders. They had entertained businesses' uses of words like value, systems of value, exceptions as collusion /S. There are constantly plots and people pretend they don't even realize it because everyone grew up with this. Timing where people are going to be to hide what came first and put people with their self-value roles with it, even though it's going to hurt those people or help them, even if it helps them. So Wethersfield police recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed with the courts and with the federal agencies lying about me and about others' motives why we're using other people's names in backgrounds. And they're putting fake writings of people through the mail, and they're changing what's actually recorded. WTNH, I don't know, they have generations of families involved with probate court judges that have something to do with the name Spada and Della Fera, and their roles with this Rob Schedule and the people involved with the medical corruption at that campus. And I don't know if they're on that street, but half their house touches Valley Crest, I believe is the name of it, and Morgan Circle, and their relatives. The people involved with putting the sign up on Morgan Circle. And people who had conversation with a teacher. There was reportedly Eric Jensen had conversation with their state police and other police forms associated with along Route 3 and people with foreign and domestic military in medical and intercampuses, putting fake identity theft frauds, ties to people, fake nature ties, making fake exceptions, let other people film it or speak it. As the people involved in intercampuses with the leaders of the kids, with and as child offenders, and further with the principal child abusers campus then and now, as the ones involved with the other campuses further, and Whiting forensics through time. Families associated with Whiting forensics, they have had roles with crimes with their patients and criminals before they got caught. They have roles with medical or involved with forensics locations and with prisons, and as names on off the state judicial branch offices and on off the state corrections offices. Increasingly involved with people, conversations with my name from Wethersfield that are involved with wire crimes with Wethersfield police. Their roles on Facebook lying about their motivations for why they pretend they feel about other people, tied to them switching and forging names and stacking fake things in databases at interbranch locations, and as ones at collusions personally and professionally with the ones at other locations tied to them, like Sandy Hook campuses. These are people involved with the medical of Adam Lanza, who are foreign and domestic military and FBI, pretending to be against you know slander. They have roles putting fake. They have roles with Wethersfield police, with as the same roles with the name. There was a Sullivan and the name Cololo involved. They don't identify themselves. Three different officers confessed that they only have one officer named McGee, but they all took parts in different police reports. The same ones have roles with the Wethersfield parks and the Hartford parks and Rocky Hill campuses with their kids, with some kid that looks like the first one who was involved with this. When I forced my family or anyone to call the police, I told my mother, I'm going to force people to call the police without telling them why. People don't want to call the police if you don't tell them why. And I'll say, and I'll force people. And what do they do? I knew because I caught them with a Dylan guy and a whole bunch of people tied to him and men and women as his family members and people associated with his neighbors who are involved with a whole bunch of judges, family members, and foreign ones with medical corruption with kids, identity thefts and frauds, wire crime acts and methods, also to make it look like that and they knew people for that, so something to do with their roles with narratives with Chris Walters and Ray Cololo has something to do with probate with judges, also family members, with identity thefts and frauds with people at has something to do with their narratives with archery too, archery or something. And his roles with people at Central Connecticut State University and on off Hartford Hospital. They have roles with medical corruption with kids and with police forums with intercities, like with Old Town Cafe, and their roles with people on and off Trinity College and on and off my middle school I went when I was a kid. They have roles next to it too with identity theft, fraud, slanders against me, spreading lies, fake ties, fake natures of ties to me. And they have rules with people on and off shipping locations that are involved with, judges and prosecutors that are using investigators remotely as collusions with names with predicate acts with facts with databases roles, which are relative to where and to how. We've had this conversation gotten away with, having it, stay criminal insidiousness, natures of positive treatments and or negative treatments, and in place of that true identity of relationship to itself and to us that such elements of American history have increasingly. Forever's body has five distinct identities of time as itself to show us this. The fifth To shot a box, but hurts not one. Species body longs to train some rest. I tell best boxings, at least some pace. This gains all grace. Boxing, martial arts, and wrestling is easier to discern. It, how grouped, everything individually grouped together, if you make something up, it's going to have those three distinct identities of possession over them. And while it being the relativity of the value of what really came true first, what really was first true. What is it? What is the only increasing value of sequence? Truth first. It's all about relativity. What is relativity theory in its place for that? Vaccines. I teach us things belong to the nature of the debate. Is used not is the breaching method show our own how to use that to measure and maintain collusion with criminal and seditious natures, qualities, aspects of fact achievements, of fact achievement nature, of uses of that role. Even if someone uses a fact being used by other bodies, could be for and influence truth for a lie, that could be sensed. So, in Little Rap Guy and Friends cartoons, what they're doing is obfuscated / hyper obfuscated relative to this. And these are people involved with the torture, extortion, and fact nature slavery recorded distinctly against the people of New York City in those tall buildings from the people in the suburbs that were designed before our founders were born for this, while they replaced, as a landscape theater, while they replace the only means to cause positive value nature progressions, acts in nature is proper, with and as natures of means to it, as collusions with the negatives, where how the worst ones still. Everyone didn't realize because it was using a simple method to either keep people blaming other things, others, ourselves, keep that ignored, and or to keep that sense anyone addressing that was against the law. See, that's the voices of the law. We're collusion with predicate acts with facts, and they're speaking about crimes anyway. So Heather Hansen recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed. People with the intelligence community influenced her to roles with them, with New Britain Superior Court people and Hartford Court people and child defenders, leaders of the kids at intercampuses, campuses she didn't even go to, and people on and off all along Church Street in Old Wethersfield are involved with Central Connecticut State University and people at Trinity College who have roles of predicate acts with facts there that were timed collusions with the names on off the World Trade Center attack location. And I was living on Yale Street, not far from Trinity College at the time. And I had already recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed from other people, and I have it more verified and demonstrable. Hartford courts and the Britain court, they have been playing as fake motivations increasingly. They have with Gary Sasso and people involved with Gail King and WFSB and Rocky Hill, and people with Fox Connecticut News in Hartford, who have roles with whiting forensics and location through time, involved with overt criminal enterprises and private ones and child abusers of various natures, including the roles of people formal like that. And they have collusions. They force societies to collusions with them. Also, whiting forensics through time as their roles with white through time uses of the witness protection program. As the people involved also with off the state Connecticut judicial branch offices and houses next to it, increasingly involved with as people who put predicate acts in campuses I went to who have connection, timed uses of it, roles, and they have people with the name Luigi Guerrero and Jonathan Maiano involved with with Central Connecticut State University. They forced society's to collusions with them and with leaders of the kids, of child campuses, fire campuses, and colleges and universities. Quinnipiac University has roles with medical offenders associated with Mr. Abruzzi, my fifth grade teacher, who's involved with names at a campus I went to before that. And the names involved with that child abuser principal, Bean, Jim Bean, they said his name is. And there was also a guy with the name with a Bean who made a Bean make a fake exception. Know me, doesn't even know me. Try to make, in other words, use the truth for a lie. If they try to use, I was in a spotter house, and I didn't have words with them. Someone with something to do with the corner of Walker Hill and Knott Street, and then they moved the name of that street after I said that, and to where a Paul Kelly reportedly lived. With others, I don't know the name of. And their neighbors were ones involved on off the principal child abuser's campus who forced roles with that. There are further child offenders associated with Subby Bajerio and kids associated with his, and other kids of the principals, including the principal child abusers that had roles with that. And there are medical families. Leahy family has kids involved with this, and they have family members that work with them, putting fake in databases about other kids and fake conversations about themselves and others with family members. And then they try to use all exceptions, criminally foreign influence too. So they can't even put themselves on paper. They're trying to make fake exceptions. That's how they go back and forth with time treatments. In other words, they have left out the criminal foreign influences and uses of the criminal foreign influence that are also singularly used. Increasingly, people at Hartford Hospital and spots next to it and Hartford are involved with intelligence families, with wire crimes, and with names planting evidences by timing where people are going to be, including on the street, and lying about what their motivations were. This is every year since I was a kid. There are means to discern this recorded. These are the ones involved with the World Trade Center attack, with the spots next to it, with the name Spada, with the Wethersfield police, and also recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed, and they pretend it's personal. They can't get on paper now because they put 3 different officers who used the name McGee, and then they confessed they only have 1 officer named McGee, with 3 different falsified police reports. I forced people to call the police and to use nonviolence, to use my mouth to defend myself, because they have people at Hartford Hospital involved with gangs, and people in my area from other area involved with the wire crimes and gun threats and threats to hurt me in other ways, with hurt my eyes and with poisons. And these are people that pretended they had conversations with me about legal cases that are involved with federal criminals before they got caught planting lies about others. And then after the sentence too, as the ones like John LeConte is involved with former director of the FBI, Robert Luskin, and with neighbors of a Dominic Lepriata, and as himself, and as one of the ones involved with this Robert Cheverry, their lawyer, and people next to his law offices, which is not far from being around the corner from, it's right around the corner from the state capitol, in the Harriet Beecher Stowe Marco Twain house, increasingly involved with this. You fake syntax punks, and then in other words, you pretend it's personal, or that's positive. You have positive, negative descriptions you can't afford on paper. Yeah, of English arts. So there's a Mr. Barnett who's involved with agencies, involved with crime methods that are also with foreign bodies. When I was taking a master's class in English at Central Connecticut State University, and they'd already been involved with the dean, Judd, and his family with one's intercities. There are people that work for Kensington and Berlin, town offices too, associated with the name Yagman. Also involved with identity theft, fraud, slander, attaching little kids, fake locations, fake ties to others, fake natures and ties to others. They have roles with monopolies on the marijuana industry, as roles with untimely deaths, identity thefts, and frauds. The intelligence community from Hartford, Connecticut, Hartford Hospital, associated with Central Connecticut State University, also involved with the other industries, but the marijuana industry in particular, because they have roles with OxyContin and all kinds of other natures of drugs, and doctors that prescribe and give out samples for that, who have their databases involved with criminally foreign influence uses of them, and their rules putting fake evidences as collusions at crime scenes, and with the people in the World Trade Center attack involved. And they're preventing people from being about organization at places that are supposed to help people get organized and things like that. Not by accident, because they're getting over on simultaneous nature, because they're getting over on hyper simultaneous nature, and because that is being used remotely. They pretend other when they value it, even though it hurts each when they do. And that's a long hurt. These ideas, heaven and hell, are terms of science, more probably and demonstrably having been revealed, apart with science of pantheism / hyper-pantheism that English was revealed to teach. So one must reach boxings. So there are people with the name Joey Quest involved with Police Chief Cintron and people with Modern Pastry and with Mazzucato Bakery. They recorded, confessed, demonstrated, confirmed they have roles of break-it-acts with John Maiano and with people with the name Cololo and DeMoro with federal crime, with child abuses with them. Has something to do with their roles with coaches of sports teams. And a coach and ones are the difference between their roles is that and as gym teachers. There's a gym teacher named Hagenbar who is involved with people that have been using like Jonathan Maiano, involved with identity theft, fraud, slander, sequence shifts, and other natures of organized crime reliant upon those things. As the judges and prosecutors and their family members timed involvements with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and people near corners of the streets involved with identity theft, fraud, slander, and relative uses of it, inclusions with the World Trade Center attack names in New York, who are the ones who have been involved through time. And all sides of criminal and civil cases, collusions, also timed collusions with the news, again, with them pretending it's personal. On a mass scale, they change and fake what people say. A certain type of victim / hyper victim, a Judge Napolitano with the YouTube channel Judging Freedom, he reported that he had one day when he first, I believe it was the first day of his being a judge, 400 arraignments in one day. In New Jersey, has many murders. Sickly distinctly, New Jersey is the victim of the breaching method from New York, from Hartford, from Detroit, from Philadelphia, from Chicago. Sickly distinctly to measure and maintain how sickly non-distinctly is self-valued left out, or that body is sensed. And then additionally, how it employed the industries. Our founders demonstrated for us to not leave out that with our abridgments, we're told to get the Constitution unabridged. We're told to get the nature of debate unabridged. Free speech. See breach. Before the foundation of modern nations each, a breaching method was cast more vast and yes, more deep. just like before the foundation of semi-ancient siege, a breaching method was cast more vast and yes, more deep. And we can discern this identity of relativity coming to, from, as, with, and for those ages past. Begin our class right here. Republic's campus calls you home. Prepare. And hear its name. In legions too. Exceptions and exception nature. Ooh. Alpha and Omega and yin yang are not to be torn apart. Prepare your heart. Free your heart, but control your mind. We are in a semi-ancient trap. It uses how identity of value / value progression works. So it uses names. It only feels like gang /s. This way /s, or else we sense. It's tactical ulterior than what ye sense for, as stated, and while many pray. And you, while ye did stay that same time. It's like when sometimes you're trying to do the same thing. I had a professor. Now I'm glad I had him. Nothing, no complaints. Every campus has our teachers and professors lying to us, lying about us to them. If we had cared about and followed where and how there are overt / insidious simultaneously uses that are also singularly used of people blaming other things, others, ourselves for things that our founders in nature itself chose us to demonstrate are the cause of a breaching method, a predicate acts with facts method, a hurt method, and pretending other roles with the nature of speaking about crimes, leaving out those predicate acts with facts, worse than just crimes against the kids of New York City sustained. Now, as against adults of them, sickly distinctly too. Want to keep that difference employed by the breaching method, descriptions of it, logic experts, reason experts. Oh, it's politics. Yeah, you call it that. Vaccine. Romulus begins to reappear. We make it things. We sing it things. In other words, that's what we have to be Romulus. Ye, each species body. The Republic is breached. Not one has teached. Alpha and Omega are variably relativity to its positive. They are automatically, everyone is automatically hyper-additional nature, hyper-positive nature. But its identity. A volume will only stay positive unto itself. But we leave out the value of its special difference to ourselves. And so the ancients didn't, because they didn't have criminal foreign influence to entertain with their logic, their reason descriptions, their name descriptions, their perception. Here, black pupils. So, intercities, the police forms cannot be trusted. They want the citizens to go in and speak with them so they can put fake and change words. They did it already. They do it offensively. You don't speak with them, and then through time they do it. They did since I was a kid. They plant evidences that way. They forced, tricked her, persuaded Chris Walter since I was a kid to plant evidences with them. He gave an affidavit about that when I was a kid. than they did it as an adult too. It's the ones involved with shipping locations in ways he doesn't even know the extent of. I don't know if it's the same Chris Walters that was reportedly died in the blast, but these are people involved with the World Trade Center who have roles with time uses of connected murders and body dumping spots and time uses of that were singularly used. It's something to do with their roles, with names on and tied to corners of streets on Griswold Street, who used my name as roles with identity theft, fraud, slanders with this Joshua Stryker, who's one of the ones involved with Eric Oliveri and others. Eric Oliveri, I had a class with him. He involved my teacher with him and with his family, and the difference between the families associated with his father and where they live, with people involved with predicate acts with facts on my street, and on and off the state judicial branch offices increasingly involved with this Joshua Stryker and people at Trinity College involved with identity theft, fraud, slanders, lying about themselves to others and lying about others to others, and using any exception and truth for lies. So they have roles with criminally foreign influence uses of conversations, roles with conversations with my teacher and with people associated with markets positions and markets locations. Like on and off, there's a markets location with stock markets and stuff near Town Line Drive, Highway. These are involved with different foreign and domestic medical families and interbranch family members that have been planting evidences using wire crime maxim methods, pretending they're testing people, etc. They're hiding what came first, as collusions with predicate acts with facts with kids from the youngest age, with kids' databases and names from the youngest ages, because they had collusions, all kinds of natures of organized crime. And I think theft fraud, you have to beg them to get on paper into branch in one name and sequence and through time. These are the people from Wethersfield into branch and intelligence, and the difference of that timed roles with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, and a witness protection program through time, and then again involved with whiting forensics, planting evidences near my house. Fear, as the ones involved with the World Trade Center attack and recent and past home break-ins and state police involvements with that. These are also people involved with state police and intelligence with Vermont and Maine, involved with Mark Violet and people with Ski 93, involved with West Hartford locations, and with this DeMauro Colo, and their conversations are ones they feed it in. Even people next to each other attest to faked and changed conversations with even their family members. The news, even with the news, is attaching little kids to fake ties to doctors through time, more and more. Foreign and domestic intelligence, they have ones with psychiatry, tactical delusions wrought with them, all kinds of natures of organized crime, not legitimately under unmarked police forms. They have that, they won't identify themselves. They give that up and pretend to be against it because they have people that speak for the identity of the police with politics and think, oh, this politician, you got to speak for the police positive. They're criminally foreign influence. No one spoke for the law correctly yet. Follow Spock Street, follow mandated law for the people of WFSB who attached me to fake conversations with themselves and others about the World Trade Center. They have roles with names next to them that forced the Saudis off to collusions with them and people out whiting forensics. Please follow mandated law. Just get one person on paper who disbelieves. Get me off the fake conversations with them and get them off Route 3. And what are they doing with the kids and their stories with the kids and be people on Route 3? And what are they doing with Middletown names associated with these names involved? Get off. Get them on paper. Get them on paper now. Because I want to talk about the murders and stuff that were brought up. And I want to talk about how they hid what I caught them doing. Because that too, There's a Justa Kovinskis. I never had a class with Justa Kovinskis. I never had a class. I never saw him around school either. Real fast, for one instance, when I was in high school, and they may try to make a fake exception because these are people that do try to make fake exceptions where they use the time criminally foreign influence at interbranch locations because they stick fake things in there. These are some KKK themed people with New Britain Superior Court, Hartford courts leading up to and black themed. And the difference of that, they consciously use that. These are people increasingly out of the state judicial branch offices and the corrections offices who had roles with people who had criminally foreign influence conversations with my teachers when I was growing up. And some of them, and as them, because of that. Then they pretend it's personal. People had conversations with my English teachers involved with medical corruption increasingly because of their roles with syntax experts, where they pretend not to understand people on a mass scale, where they have locations and names tied to databases, criminally foreign influence, not and then showing how it needs to hide that at other locations. Increasingly, people tied to a Joe Aiello and his sister. They have roles with a fire department next to Trinity College, and people at on and off Trinity College involved with identity theft, fraud, slander. He's one of the little fakes about himself and others, with the intelligence community guiding him to do it to get away with it. Attaching, I never had a class with him in my life. They try to make a fake exception of me, even seeing him around the campus after he graduated, which I was supposed to graduate. The reason I didn't graduate, that teacher is involved with one-on-ones. I never had a personal conversation with her. She's involved with one-on-ones with the name Pandolf and neighbors of his and people associated with it from other areas that have time abuses of the corner of that street, including the ones with the name DeMar and the intelligence community on Valley Crest and tied to it, like with this name schedule. See, they have probate courts involved with elderly homes, and where they have problems where they settle problems. They have methods where they settle problems with drugs and medicines, crime methods, and the difference between that and the one other ways. There are other natures of organized crime roles, criminal foreign influence, factory nature, qualities, aspects, and natures of all identities with these locations, and with the elderly, and with the veteran locations, and right through the wrong, because that's how this breaching method works. So don't say stupid jerks and get the police on paper on one name in sequence. Please, neighbors, don't be cowards with the Wethersfield police. I'll show you what to do, and I apologize for yelling. You guys forcing people to call police, but we gotta get it done. Boxing is fun, but don't make it hard too, because the O'Brien, more people with the name O'Brien are involved with the Sandy Hook and with the principal child abuser that is involved with also, and with their roles names with the Facebook pages of New Britain Superior Court and of Wethersfield Police. There are people with the name Joshua Schumack, who also has been planting evidences since he was a kid, and roles with people with KKK and themed and inter-religious spots, roles with names on all sides of criminal and civil cases. They're lawyers and interbranch putting fake things at the same time. They already can't defend themselves. So they need to keep back more people into doing, how are you going to be a first judge and you're going to, let me show them how ahead of time. Rather than have the breaching method, leave them keep setting up each other to have 400 indictments, 400 arraignments, leaving out the roles with the predicate acts with facts and the difference of it at their campuses or not, because that's also exploited. This is all employed a tactical terrier from how we are a hyper projection, not just so to speak, a whisper creek. So this is a standing method to teach about the Constitution unabridged and about that torture, extortion, slavery method in our way. Vaccines in many pray. It breaks the sweat. It's hyper-native pure. Any voice that denies that is going to miss, even if you're a Native American, you're going to mess up proper appreciation of Native American per scientific value, as a scientific value. Names A through Z have been applied through systems tactile ulterior from the hyper-native nature applied A through Z. I'll see. But everyone missed. So that's where you guys missed the extent of what the different natures of courts have been involved with, how they have real quick. And then they're going to have problems and how they solve those problems because they've been criminally foreign influence, usual location / You can't blame things on money, even when that so much looks like it's that. You have to be led by the hyper invisible, but still discernible. You have to follow these predicate acts with facts that I mentioned to you. So each of the campuses I went to, I never had a class, never saw around school a Ray Reynolds. The only exception was when I was at was in a kindergarten class with that school that closed down right after that. And see, there are people that live next to that place that have roles with people each year at the other campus I was doing to. They're putting little fake things in databases. Little, make fake exceptions of knowing people. And from other classrooms, timed collusions with overt criminal enterprises, private ones, a whole bunch of different countries' names they brought into it, still. So in ways I can show you is bringing it into it because it's still, when they speak about what they think about what others speak, they can't defend that on paper. They can't defend their natures as actually recorded, all formal identities of law. There's a Tarantolo in Tarantolo who has roles with uses of words like government and theory, who is also tactically delusions raw and involved with federal evidences, wire crime acts and methods with Connecticut news locations and with ad placements and his communications with the people involved with that. Also with child abusers, leaders of the kids that was used to force. And with medical offenders of kids, foreign and domestic, involved with him in the intelligence community all along Route 3. Get my name out of your sick mind, you fake punks. And get on paper with the judges switching and forging names. Let's go. Get on paper now. And with the Wethersfield, please, get them on paper. Please. Judge Napolitano, please. Don't make me beg. There are a whole bunch of things I want. You guys can't handle it. You guys brought it up. You're intelligence people. You guys are supposed to follow mandated law. Get me off the fake conversations, the interbranch, put in the databases, and the intelligence tied to them too, because sometimes it was them, and the difference between that is also involved because they have personal roles and professional roles with the names that have been planting evidences on my street since I was a kid from other areas, and the roles with the ones with the wire crimes. You guys you can't deal with an instance that you guys can't be trained because your campuses are still criminally foreign influence used remotely. You guys chill. There's a methods to this. So there's a computer teacher I had who has rules with a son and his wife. They bring each other into it. And in other words, these are people involved. They foresaw these to collusion with them, with the Pandolfs too. People all along Route 175, from Wethersfield to Central Connecticut State University, have roles intercities on off the campuses with predicate acts with facts, which is nothing personal. This is our evidence. These are people involved with the World Trade Center attack with the foreign bodies. These are people involved through time with wire crime acts and methods, within as people associated with whiting forensics, within as people speaking about things like hate, because they have predicate acts with facts methods that has something to do with their roles with I never responded. With time where I was going to be, make it look like I was a part of their conversation. He would repeat the word Jew and call people Jew and stuff like that. Paul Zano Paul Zano and his neighbors are increasingly involved with identity thefts and frauds, and people involved with child offenders, and people from other classes, people involved with mayors involved with it, and medical offenders, people involved with the news. There's also a Jack Zano that the news people have involved with this, and other people.